Welcome. You've made it here, and that already means something. If you find comfort in this space, if these words bring you even a moment of quiet, you're warmly invited to subscribe, to like this video, or leave a gentle comment below, not out of obligation, but simply to mark a place you can return to on the nights that feel heavy. Now, let's begin. It begins in the hush of night. The lights have dimmed, the world outside is finally quiet, but somewhere within, something still stirs. You're lying there, still as the room around you, but your heart carries a weight that doesn't have a name. It's not a scream. It's not even a whisper. It's the ache that settles when everything else is silent. This is the ache of words never spoken, of emotions carefully folded away, like fragile letters never sent, of pauses that became patterns, of the quiet, no, that lived behind every polite smile, and the quiet, please, that never found its voice. You remember those moments, don't you? When something inside wanted to rise, to speak, to reach out, to cry, but instead, it stayed small. Safe. Hidden. Maybe it was protection. Maybe it was fear. Maybe you thought no one would listen. And so you swallowed the truth. Swallowed it so many times, it became a familiar flavor. A taste you almost don't notice anymore, except at night. At night, the body is too tired to pretend. At night, the mask loosens. And beneath it, there you are. Still whole. Still waiting. There's no shame in it. There is nothing wrong with you. To hold back is something humans do when the world has not always been kind. You might have learned early that your needs made others uncomfortable. That your tears were too much. That your dreams were too loud. So you softened your voice, curled your edges, and trained yourself to endure the ache of never quite being seen. But tonight, in this space, you don't have to explain. There is nothing to prove. You are not broken for having held back. You are not weak for feeling tired. You are human, complex, layered, aching with 1,000 unsaid things. And I want you to know, this space is for all of that. For every version of you that didn't get to speak. For the child who needed more comfort. For the adult who still flinches at softness. For the tired soul that is just now realizing how much energy it takes to carry silence. Can we sit together for a moment, in this soft ache? No fixing. No forcing. Just breathing. Just feeling. You might notice a subtle loosening, as if the ache, now seen, doesn't need to shout. This is the beginning of healing, not the loud, triumphant kind, but the quiet kind that begins with being witnessed. You don't need grand epiphanies tonight. Just honesty. Just a little softness for the version of you that stayed silent to survive. Let's breathe here, in this dim and tender place. You've come so far carrying things you never said. And now, you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to not be strong for a while. To let the ache speak, not in pain, but in poetry. The poetry of a soul that is tired, but still intact. Still worthy. Still listening. And maybe, in this quiet, something inside you will finally exhale. Not to be heard by the world, but to be heard by you. That's all we're doing here. Not rushing. Not pushing. Just making space for the ache that's lived too long in the dark. You don't need to be fixed, love. You just need to be felt. Let this be the moment you begin. Sometimes, the soul waits in silence. Not because it has nothing to say, but because it once said too much, and no one listened gently enough to hear. There's a kind of waiting that doesn't look like waiting. It's not tapping feet or watching clocks. It's the quiet pause between what we feel and what we express. A stillness between the heart and the mouth, between knowing and showing. And in that stillness lives a story. One shaped not by apathy, but by protection. You see, we hold back for reasons we don't always recognize. Not because we are cold. Not because we are broken. But because we once reached out, and the world reached back with silence, or shame, or hurt. So, the heart learned to fold inward. It became its own sanctuary. There's wisdom in withholding. Not the manipulative kind, but the survival kind. like a child who learns not to cry because no one comes when they do. Or a teenager who stops sharing dreams after they're laughed at. The silence becomes armor. The pause becomes protection. And what looks like fear is often just the echo of something ancient, a wound so old it forgot it was once fresh. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, those parts of ourselves we push away, hide, repress, or bury. But sometimes, the shadow isn't dark because it's dangerous. It's dark because it's been kept in the basement of memory for too long. And among those shadows? The tender child who needed to be held, but was told to be strong. The dreamer who wanted to sing, but was told to be quiet. The lover who ached to open, but was taught to brace for impact. We carry those ghosts like folded letters, unsent, unopened, but never forgotten. And so the heart waits. Not for someone perfect. Not even for healing. But simply, for safety. It is not shameful to hesitate. Not weak to pause. What looks like avoidance is often an inner child waiting for a signal. You're allowed to speak now. You're allowed to feel again. You're allowed to show up without fear. Imagine a flower that bloomed once, only to be torn by the wind. Now, it stays closed, even in spring. The sun is warm, the soil is soft, but the petals are unsure. Is it truly safe this time? Emotional withholding isn't always conscious. It lives in small gestures, the texts we don't send, the emotions we filter, the needs we pretend we don't have. Not because we want to hide, but because hiding is what once kept us safe. To the one listening now, there's nothing wrong with you. There is only a heart that learned to wait, a soul that's been too careful, for good reason. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need to rush into opening. You just need to rest beside someone who doesn't ask you to change, only to breathe. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply in a season of protection, a phase of pause, and every pause carries within it a promise. That one day, when it's truly time, the heart will move again. But tonight, you don't need to move. You don't need to explain. Just know this, even in your holding back, you are deeply, tenderly understood. Let the silence cradle you. Let the shadows soften. There is no rush. There is no deadline for healing. Only the gentle unfolding of a heart that's learning to trust again. There is a silence that soothes, and a silence that swallows. Some silence feels like peace. Like sitting by the edge of a lake at dusk, the water still, the wind soft, the heart quietly exhaling. But then, there's another kind. A silence that tightens around the ribs. That grows like fog inside the chest, until even your own thoughts echo back at you in strange, distant ways. This is the silence we're here to gently explore tonight. The silence that comes not from serenity, but from self-abandonment. You see, there's a cost to always holding back. Not the kind you can see in a mirror, or measure in numbers, but the kind that lives deep inside the body, where tension builds in muscles that haven't rested in months. Where the heart grows weary from whispering truths it believes no one wants to hear. It begins slowly. You silence yourself in a moment, to avoid conflict, to keep the peace, to seem agreeable, to not appear too much. And at first, it seems harmless. You tell yourself, it's okay. It's not worth it. But then it happens again, and again, and again. And before you know it, you are no longer silencing a moment, you are silencing yourself. Unspoken feelings don't vanish. They simply change form. They harden, settle in the stomach, creep into your dreams, wrap themselves around your voice when you try to speak, until one day, you find you've forgotten what your voice even sounds like when it's telling the truth. This kind of silence doesn't soothe. It numbs. And numbing feels safe. It dulls the ache. It quiets the waves. But it also dims the colors. And slowly, so slowly, you forget what it feels like to feel. This isn't to shame you. This isn't to wake you up with urgency or guilt. This is only to sit beside you, and named the truth your soul already knows. Because somewhere, in a small corner of your being, a younger version of you still remembers what it felt like to be real. Before you learned it wasn't safe. Before the world taught you that your needs were too loud, that your emotions were inconvenient, that your boundaries made others uncomfortable. Somewhere, you still know. And tonight, that knowing is enough. You don't have to change anything right now. You don't have to confront anyone. You don't have to speak if you're not ready. Just listen. Not to me, but to the quiet ache beneath your ribs. The one that's been patiently waiting for you to notice that silence has a weight. And you've been carrying it for years. When we silence ourselves for too long, the soul grows heavy. And what was once a vibrant, feeling, curious self becomes tired, flat, unreachable even to you. Not broken, just buried. And that's okay. Truly. It's okay if you're just now realizing how tired you are. How long you've been performing okayness. How deeply you've been longing to be heard by someone, anyone, who wouldn't flinch when they saw the truth of you. This isn't a call to speak right now. It's an invitation to gently remember that your voice is still there. Waiting. Softly. Patiently. And when you're ready, even if it's months from now, it will rise again. Not in a roar, but maybe in a whisper. Maybe in a journal entry. Maybe in the way you finally say no. Or in the way you don't explain yourself this time. Healing begins in noticing. Not fixing. Not rushing. Just noticing. So tonight, notice. Notice where your silence lives in your body. Notice how your breath feels when it's not performing. Notice the parts of you that ache. Not for noise, but for truth. Let this be your moment of stillness, not to disappear, but to come home. Your silence has a story, but so does your voice. And both deserve to be held with gentleness. You don't have to force a single word tonight. Just rest. Let your breath be a quiet yes to yourself. Let your stillness be sacred. Let your awareness be enough. Because even if you've forgotten, your soul hasn't. It knows the truth. It always has. And one day, when it feels safe, it will speak again. Like rain after drought. Like dawn after a long, sleepless night. Rest now. You are not lost. You are listening. And that is the beginning. There's something sacred about the things we never say. Not because silence is always noble, but because what we hide for a reason. And tonight, we're not here to force those doors open. We're just here to gently sit near them. To place a quiet candle by the parts of you that rarely get light. Somewhere beneath the layers of holding back, beneath the polite smiles, the strategic pauses, the practiced "I'm fine." There is a tender world still waiting to be seen. Not dramatic. Not chaotic. Just deeply human. It holds the moment you wanted to speak, but didn't. The time you almost reached out, but pulled away. The years you lived in half-light, afraid your full brightness might blind someone who never learned to look at the sun. What if we explored this softly? Like walking barefoot through a foggy forest at dawn. No rushing. No judgment. Just quiet noticing. You may find echoes here, old dreams folded into corners of memory. Ideas that once sparked light in your chest but dimmed when no one else saw the glow. Maybe you remember wanting to be a dancer. Or a writer. Or simply someone who felt safe enough to cry in front of others. Where did that version of you go? She's not gone. She's just waiting. Like seeds under the snow, still alive beneath the silence. We often think that hiding ourselves is protection. And sometimes it is. There are moments, places, people, where being seen would have hurt more than being invisible. But eventually, we forget the difference between being careful and being gone. Jung called it the shadow. The unseen parts of the self. But shadow doesn't mean evil. It means unlit, unheard, unhugged. And maybe some of your softness lives there. Some of your joy. Your tears. Your laughter that was once too loud for the room you were in. What if the parts you've hidden aren't shameful, but sacred. Pause for a moment. Breathe. Feel the silence. Notice what rises. There's no need to name it. Just feel. Let the body speak before the mind interrupts. A tightness in the chest? A flutter in the throat? An ache in the belly? These are stories your nervous system has been telling for years. Stories that never got words. Only symptoms. But tonight, we're not diagnosing. We're just listening. Like sitting by the edge of a deep lake and hearing something move beneath the surface. You don't need to dive in. Just know, something lives there. And it matters. Do you remember when you first learned it wasn't safe to be all of yourself? Maybe it was subtle. A sigh when you were too excited. A punishment for crying. A laugh when you were serious. These moments sink slowly, like pebbles in a well. And eventually, we stop bringing our whole self to the world. Not because we don't want to, but because we forget what wholeness feels like. But here's the quiet truth. What you repress doesn't vanish. It waits. It waits in art you never made. In love you never asked for. In needs you dressed up as jokes. In dreams that still visit you at 2 a.m. Half asleep, half begging to be remembered. There is no pressure to act tonight. No call to reclaim anything. This is not a transformation. It is a reflection. A moment of curiosity. A breath of all. A hand reaching inward, not to fix, but to feel. So ask yourself, gently, what part of me have I not let speak in a long, long time? What do I miss about myself, even if I've never admitted it? What would it feel like to be fully known, and still loved? You don't have to answer. Just hold the question like a pebble in your palm. Cool. Simple. Real. Some truths only whisper. And they will wait as long as they need to. But the whisper is there. And tonight you are finally quiet enough to hear it. Let that be enough. No performance. No breakthrough. Just breath. Just noticing. And maybe, as you drift towards sleep, you'll feel something loosen inside. Not fall apart, but soften. Like fog lifting. Like a tight knot finally exhaling. Like you. Returning to yourself, inch by inch. Rest now. The parts of you you've hidden, they're still yours. Still sacred. Still waiting. And tonight, for the first time in a long time, you turned toward them. You listened. You remembered. And that is enough. There's something quiet blooming tonight. It isn't loud. It isn't urgent. It's just a whisper. A gentle maybe, in a heart that has been silent for too long. This is not the part where you must rise and change your life. This is not about bravery or breakthroughs. This is the softest part of healing, the part that asks only one thing. What if you gave yourself a little more permission to be? Permission to feel what you feel. To speak, even if your voice shakes. To set down what's heavy. To begin again, in the smallest possible way. Not because you have to. Not because anyone is watching. But because somewhere deep within you, something wants to breathe again. There's a part of you, still alive, still listening, that remembers what it means to be whole. It may be buried under layers of quiet pain, but it has never left. And tonight, in the stillness, it finally has space to stir. Let's not rush it. Let it stretch. Let it rise like mist from a sleeping lake. You've spent so much time holding it all together. Being careful. Being quiet. Making sure no one sees the places that hurt. But what if healing isn't about strength? What if it begins with softness? A single tear. A shaky boundary. A text you didn't send, now gently typed. A small no. A quiet yes. A deep breath before answering. A few more minutes in bed. These are not failures. They are openings. Tiny movements of the soul toward freedom. You don't have to leap into a new life. You don't need a 5-step plan. You don't need to become a different version of yourself. What you need is permission. To pause. To feel. To unlearn. To remember. To exist, fully. Maybe no one gave you that permission before. Maybe you were taught that being emotional was wrong, that speaking your truth would scare people away, that softness meant weakness. But those were someone else's rules. They don't have to be yours. Tonight, let this space be the first place that says, you are allowed to be exactly as you are. Messy, tender, unfinished, real. Breathe into that. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are simply becoming. In your own way. In your own time. Healing isn't a timeline. It's a rhythm. And yours may be slower. That's okay. Slow healing is still healing. The tree doesn't rush its bloom. The moon doesn't apologize for taking time to be full again. You are no different. Think of the courage it takes just to feel something and not run. To stay present in your own body. To listen to your own needs. That's not weakness. That's sacred. Sometimes the most radical act of healing is choosing to rest when the world demands performance. Sometimes it's saying, I matter too, even when your voice is quiet. If you're tired, let that be okay. If you're not ready, that's okay too. This space is not asking anything from you. Only offering, softly, a little light in the dark. A voice that says, you are allowed to begin again. And beginning doesn't always look like a sunrise. Sometimes it's a single breath. A few tears on the pillow. A journal page. A walk outside. A moment where you choose to be gentle with yourself instead of cruel. This is what soft permission sounds like. I can go slow. I can make mistakes. I can speak my truth, even if it trembles. I can choose me, even if no one understands. I don't have to earn rest. I am worthy of peace. Let these words settle in your body. Feel how your chest expands, just a little, with the knowing that you no longer have to hold it all in. Let your breath be a lullaby. Let your heart beat slow. Let your shoulders loosen their grip on the world. You've done enough for now. Maybe, as you sleep tonight, something will shift inside you. Not loudly, but quietly. A petal unfurling. A wall softening. A heart remembering that it's safe to be open again. You are allowed to change, slowly. You are allowed to begin again, softly. You are allowed to trust, gently. You are allowed to live, fully. Not tomorrow. Not someday. But here. Now. Even if it's just a whisper. Rest now. The world will still be here when you wake. But for now, this moment is only for you. You are safe. You are seen. And you are slowly becoming everything you were always meant to be. And now, you've come to the quiet part. The part that doesn't ask you to think. Or fix. Or even feel anything at all. This is where the soul simply returns. Not in a grand awakening, but like mist returning to the ocean. Like a child sleepwalking back into the warmth of their own bed. You've traveled far tonight, not through miles, but through emotions. Through unspoken dreams, hidden hurts, forgotten softness. And you didn't rush. You didn't force. You simply stayed, and that is more than enough. Now we arrive together at the threshold of sleep, where language softens into silence, and the body prepares to be still. This is your landing place. A homecoming. A rejoining with what was always yours, your breath, your body, your quiet center. Let your body feel the weight of being held. Let your chest rise and fall like a tide returning home. Let the muscles in your jaw, your shoulders, your hands soften. You don't need to hold so tightly anymore. You've done enough for today. There's nothing you need to carry into the next moment. Nothing to rehearse. Nothing to fix. No mask to wear here. You are safe. You are home. The soul, you see, never truly leaves. It only gets quiet. Careful. Patient. And now that you've made space for stillness, it returns, not with noise or drama, but with the familiar sound of your own breath, the feeling of your body resting, the hush of the world fading gently into night. Tonight the stars are witnesses to your quiet resilience. The moon watches softly, like a guardian of those who feel deeply. And the sky above, vast and silent, echoes what you've known all along. You were never broken. Only tired. Only quiet. Only human. You were never wrong for protecting your heart. For hesitating. For saying less. For needing time. You were never behind. Only healing, in sacred, invisible ways. So let's not chase healing anymore. Let's let it come to you. Softly. In the stillness. In the safety of now. You don't need to earn your rest. It is your birthright. And it begins here. Let the night become a lullaby. Let the darkness be velvet. Let your thoughts turn to stars, drifting gently out of focus. Let the mind untangle itself from the knots of the day. There is no need to hold on. You can let go now. You can rest. With every breath, you are returning to yourself. Not a version others needed. Not a mask. But the you that exists when no one is looking. And that version is enough. That version is real. That version is home. You've done a brave thing tonight. You've chosen presence. Stillness. Softness. You've chosen to listen to the parts of you that speak without words. And they are grateful. They are finally being heard. So here, in the quiet, let me remind you, Crescent Moon, you are allowed to rest before you feel ready. Crescent Moon, you are allowed to trust your own pace. Crescent Moon, you are allowed to take up space. Even in silence. Crescent Moon, you are allowed to stop striving. Crescent Moon, you are allowed to just be. If your eyes are heavy, let them close. If your mind wanders, let it drift. If your heart feels tender, let it soften. There is no wrong way to be here. There is only you, gently unfolding in the hush of the night. Inhale, like the tide pulling in the stars. Exhale, like the earth letting go of the day. Breathe in this truth, you are safe. You are seen. You are sacred. Let your soul rest now. Let your story rest. Let your old thoughts take their coats and quietly leave. There is a new kind of quiet here, not emptiness, but presence. Not absence, but belonging. The soul has returned home. Not to a perfect place, but to a soft one. A place where nothing needs to happen, and everything is allowed to unfold. And so, as the night deepens, as the world around you stills, may you sleep in the arms of your own becoming. Not trying. Not fixing. Just being. Just breathing. Just home.